Hi, I'm Paul Twomey, President and CEO of ICANN, and I'm informing Informio.
Thanks, Paul, for taking time out of your busy Davos schedule to talk to Informulo. So tell us, where do things stand on the adding of new top-level domains?
Well, ICANN's community's been going through a process for the last 3-4 years on actually working through the policy process of introducing new generic top-level domains. When ICANN was formed 10 years ago or more, its actual foundational principles then were about giving more competition and choice to the users of generic top-level domains. And we've had 2 rounds of sort of experimental rounds of introduction of new top-level domains, and now we're in the stage of saying, okay, let's have a steady-state policy and process. The policy itself got approved in June last year by the ICANN board after 3 years of work by the community, and now we're in the sort of a period of time where we're looking whether we can implement that. We released in October, November last year the first example of what an implementation plan would be, what we call the applicant's guidebook, for the first draft and for comment. And our processes are normally very noisy. We specifically look for feedback from the community and people who are affected, just to make certain we can find out how, what needs to be amended and changed. We've received over 1,000 responses to that applicant guidebook process, and that's fantastic. I'm very, very pleased we've had that much input, that much reaction. I think that's a really good outcome. The reactions have had sort of 2 parts. The vast number of the responses have been very detailed critiques and value-added aspects about the actual applicant's guidebook, which says to me they mostly come from people who are thinking of putting an application in from TLD, and are either saying, here's problems we foresee, or frankly some of them are clearly gaming. They're trying to get better conditions in the contracts or whatever to suit their business model, and that's fine. We've also had a set of principles put forward by some others, particularly some government, 1 or 2 governments, and also very importantly the international brand owners, either in associations or individually, where they've had some sort of meta issues which were certainly discussed in the policy process earlier and in that consensus building process, but have come back up again. The first one is the broader issues. There's been concerns about that new generic top-level domains will end up with an explosion of cyber squatting and the need for brand owners to have to spend lots of money protecting their brand. Now, I don't think there's any intent of ICANN or ICANN community to extort brand owners, and if that concern remains, we are actually starting discussions with those communities, and we'll do so over the next a month or 2, specifically to work through practical ways of addressing their concerns. They are real concerns. We need to talk to people about that. That's not the intent. The second one, and I think there's some practical things we could really put forward which would help minimise that. I think also we have to get people in that area to be conscious of the what are the realities of international law. I've been amused by some of the responses. I'm not amused, wrong word, but I've been bemused by some of the responses where people have simply said, I want to be able to just register my name and then it's completely reserved and nobody else can use it. The difficulty is that's not how international cleaning operations nor international trademark law works. In the sense that you can have 47 or 48 uses of the same brand name across industries per country, times that many countries is basically a rough sense how the trademark environment works. So the idea that just because I have a trademark in some industry doesn't mean that you then preclude anybody else wanting to have a valid right to protect their trademark. So that issue of reserving at the top level is an interesting one. But certainly when you come down to second levels and what methods can people do to protect at the second level, I think there's some opportunities there which we will be able to explore.
Well, given all the controversy, what's the timeline, do you think, for this?
The timeline is going to be, we expect to be moving in the second half of this year. It's probably the best way to describe it. We'll have a further discussion on the timeline about this in Mexico, a city where we have one of our big meetings at the end of February. We've got to deal with this brand name issue. The other issue I should mention before we go further is also people have asked questions about whether this is going to make bad behaviour on the internet and some of the tools that are used to, people are using to do malware and phishing and farming, etc. Is this going to make it just worse? I actually am of the view strongly that we potentially need a discussion about what could we put into the contracts and put in cascading contractual terms that actually could help improve our ability to react to those sort of situations, and that indeed the new GTLDs may give us a better global contractual framework to deal with some of these issues than the legacy TLD contracts have. And so I do think that's another further discussion. The timeline is going to be partly affected by those discussions, so we'll have to see what to do.
Okay, great. So what's the update on the internationalization of ICANN's management?
Well, ICANN's had a joint, has two documents with the United States government. One is the procurement contract for the operation of the IANA functions, which are the very sort of narrow database functions for coordinating with the root zone system. And the other one has been a 10-year, well, first it was a memorandum of understanding, and then now quite a somewhat minimalist, if you like, document, which is called the Joint Project Agreement, which is basically the oversight arrangements, the sort of what I tend to think of as the due diligence process for ensuring that for the US they've ensured that this model that it'll create actually does work and that they've got confidence in that. I think in the discussions, but certainly with the last administration, we have with the new administration, people are beginning to understand that I think it has actually achieved that objective, that the organisation is now stable, it does actually operate, it has all its component parts, it is financially stable. There are some more things we're going to do on transparency. Well, we've done a lot on transparency, we're going to do a few more things on accountability. There are some clear things we're going to do. I've had a President's Strategy Committee which has been working on proposals. We hope to have those out very shortly to finalise, but there have been lots of consultation on that as well. But we are looking at September 2009 and having the Joint Project Agreement come to its conclusion. And that's not a question of changing things very much, in the sense it's a thing of just celebrating that it's been a successful evolution. It's not some massive transition to something else. It is just that we've got to that stage. So I think that's potentially a good news story, but that has been a matter of discussion, and clearly we've got to talk to the new administration and other governments and other stakeholders about that further.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll all stay tuned to ICANN's progress.
Great.